So, we're reporting this a few days after the update from the YouTuber himself, but for those who aren't subscribed to Non-Stop Dan and were interested in how things were resolved, here's the latest. And for those who are completely unaware of what happened, well, a YouTuber by the name of Non-Stop Dan was threatened by the purser of a Kuwait Airways flight. Accused of filming crew and passengers, it was demanded that Dan delete his footage. After being scolded by the pilot upon landing, Kuwait Airways management threatened to sue him if he shared his experience, while police questioned him and determined he had done nothing wrong. We didn't hear anything regarding an airline response until a few days after the videos went public. Here is how Kuwait Airways reacted. First off, our YouTube video is obviously summarizing another YouTube video. Yes, it's very meta, and so if you're keen on hearing what happened from Dan himself, getting the full retelling of events, do check out his channel and the videos. But if you're keen on just getting a summary, well, it appears that several Kuwaiti officials reached out to Dan after the incident. First, there was an email from the president of the airline. This individual apologized for the, quote, unacceptable behavior of the flight crew chief on that flight. At the end of the email, an offer is made to meet Dan in person to offer an apology, and an invitation is extended to take another, presumably complimentary flight with Kuwait Airways of Dan's choosing. Then, Dan got an email from a member of the royal family of Kuwait. Now, he's not able to share the message due to privacy conditions set out in the email, but Dan says that an apology was made, flight details were requested, and a refund was offered. The offer of the refund was declined, but Dan calls the response a, quote, truly class act. We then see that there is an official statement from the Kuwait Airways chairman who again apologizes and promises an investigation and acknowledges communication and training may need to be changed. Dan says one of his main requests from all of this interaction with the airline leaders is that the purser who interacted with Dan not lose his job. He tells his audience, the last thing I want is to ruin someone's life or have their job taken away from them. So that's our attempt at summarizing the final chapter in the trilogy of Non-Stop Dan's Kuwait Airways experience. This whole thing has ignited a discussion about filming on board and airlines having to deal with flight reviewers and social media influencers and YouTubers. Some people insist that permission must be obtained from the airline beforehand if filming is to take place for purposes like YouTube. While this makes sense in some ways, it would also clearly distort the authenticity of a flight review, as cabin crew will likely have been warned and be on their very best behaviour, acting differently than they would under more normal circumstances. This incident has also raised discussion as to how airlines should handle such encounters, with Dan himself suggesting that a cabin crew member should simply politely acknowledge that filming of crew and other passengers is prohibited, but that filming of aircraft seating and product is encouraged, if that airline wants the free publicity. But of course, there is a lot to consider when it comes to filming and taking photos on board. What are your thoughts on all of this and how the airline responded? Let us know by leaving a comment. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.